All right, test. Does this work? Does this work, mister?
Yes, sir. Happy Friday, Mr. Pappy.
Yeah, happy Friday. First
Happy.
first sunny day we've had here in like 6 days, man. It's been raining all week.
Oh yeah, it's always good to get sun. Being in California, that's not something we talk about here. But welcome, Eugene. Thanks for joining. Oh, here we go. We got a few more joiners, a few more listeners. Dev, Lost, QX. Thank you guys for joining. Yeah, so why don't we just kick it off? Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to You Heard 36. Today we are talking about the road ahead for yAxis. And, we've been kind of teasing the rest of our roadmap for the past few weeks. And really, we've been, a little bit guarded in terms of how we talk about the product, right? So today, I was thinking, Mr. Pappy, that we could maybe, give a little bit more details on kind of where we stand with our next milestone, which is the borrow lending product, the self-repaying loans feature, and then kind of give a little bit of alpha in terms of where we're going, beyond the self-repaying loan feature. But before we do that, I thought, Mr. Pappy, you're the charts wizard. Market action has been interesting over the past couple weeks, let alone the last few days. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on and what we might expect going forward?
Yeah. So this week was a bit of a roller coaster. We did start to uh, tip the charts for Bitcoin in particular towards the upper 40K region, and you had a few comments this week. The meeting minutes came out from the FOMC last month, which just kind of reiterated the commitment they had to trying to tackle inflation. You had uh, the Fed governor make some comments in terms of wanting to bring down the inflation. All these things kind of spooked some of the assets, some of the risk on assets, things like crypto. So we had a nice little rally, and now we're in the middle of a little bit of a dumpy dump here. In DeFi hit as hard as anything else in the space, and so we're currently just riding that out. I do feel pretty good though that that things should be turning around soon. I think if it was me, if I was guessing, I think we just have some whales that are quite happy to accumulate in this lower 40K range, and once they have their fill, we'll move on. But until then, yeah, it's been kind of stressful for a lot of people. So I know that's name of the game in crypto, right? It wouldn't be crypto if it was low stress.
Yeah, volatility is back. At least, that's one way to look at it, right? Volatility is good. It is a sign of a healthy market. So, you know, uh, picking up BTC, I guess, is the name of the game right now. But I think it's interesting from kind of a wider market perspective to see just, you know, all the news recently coming out of Bitcoin Miami, coming out, everything related to the news coming out of there, and comparing that with overall crypto charts right now, it seems that there's a little bit of a disconnect, right? Because there's been all these developments with, for example, Strike, right, getting their their fiat rails integrated in with these large, payment processors, allowing you to pay with Bitcoin via Lightning Network across all these different merchants. The list is like vast. I think it's like Whole Foods and Walgreens and this and
Walmart,
that,
everyone,
Walmart,
yeah,
everyone. Yeah, but what do you think about that, Pat?
yeah, you're right. Being part of DeFi. I imagine that most people they to some degree have a passion and an interest in the space, and they want to see it grow. They want to see it mature and gain that true adoption and market penetration. And things like this are the first real major steps towards that. Having Bitcoin now nearly as accessible as a credit card in a lot of places with this news. I mean, this is wild news. The strike stuff. Basically, this payment processor is the largest. I guess it's like the largest in the world, and they agreed to process the Bitcoin network through the I guess the Lightning app or through Strike. Which yeah, that's really cool. So really excited about that and kind of what it means. Each of these kind of developments is just one step closer to bringing more people into the space, more people into DeFi, because that's exactly what Bitcoin is at the end of the day, right? It's decentralized finance at its finest.
Yeah, almost. I mean, you could even say the OG of decentralized finance, right? It's just a shame that these apps that have been built have been really on other chains, but Bitcoin is the one that kicked it off.
Mhm.
But Pat, for me, I think what's interesting is the the move towards onboarding, retail, kind of that move towards more true mass adoption, right? And finally realizing, for example, Bitcoin as a method of payment, right? Which goes kind of counter to the narrative that's been building over the past few years of it being, whether it's called a safe haven or the digital gold, or right, an inflation hedge, store of value, right? And but yeah, it's really interesting to see that. But for me, what I'm really excited to see is this phase of growth where folks are starting to focus on accessibility, right? Being able to onboard that mainstream, in other words, being able to attract that retail audience, because that's what we've been focused on really at yAxis, right? The past few milestones have really been for us all about offering innovative products that have low friction for retail users, right? It's not the whales, not the institutions, not the ones that are, minting or have, gained many thousands of X on their bags, right? They're the vast majority of folks are just, the normal DeFi user that may have been frozen out by, for example, high transaction fees and just the cost to interact with smart contracts in general on the Ethereum chain, right? And so I think that's really cool because it's a validation that we really do need to move towards more retail. We do need that accessibility, just not in one project in one corner of DeFi, but really ecosystem wide.
Yeah, and I can say I agree with you wholeheartedly, not just because it makes sense, but because that's me. I think it's all of us listening, right? At least I don't think any of us are whales. I think we're here because we're passionate about the space because it does level the playing field a little bit. And I was talking about that this week, and I was there was a post about how the U.S. Congress outperformed hedge funds this past year uh, in terms of investment, and then you just think, well, it's awfully convenient for them. I'm pretty sure most politicians aren't, professional financial advisors or traders, yet here they are, outperforming, dozens or hundreds, however many companies that is that are trained and seasoned professionals. And that just reminds me that this is why I'm in DeFi because here, at least for now, they don't control this space. They can't manipulate this space. They can't, you know, regulate it into their favor. At least not yet, right? This is. I hope never they never will either, right? But this is a more fair playing field, and so yeah. Uh, so I guess in terms of y-axis, uh, what was I forget? We had a few things we wanted to cover. Where would you like to start, sir?
Well, I think the natural segue from here is to talk about what we're doing for accessibility, right? And that's, again, that's what we've been focused on. We're now on Avalanche chain, right? Our core V3 architecture has been out there for a minute, and really we're so stoked to see just the high TPS, the time to finality is slow, and the transaction costs are minimal, right? They're orders of magnitude lower than what we're used to on ETH. So, we've taken that step towards accessibility. And for us, it really is still all about trying to not only make DeFi easy, or at least easier, it is also trying to onboard that next wave, right, of retail users. And I thought, wow, how perfect is it that the ecosystem is really at scale starting to move in that direction, validating our strategy, right? And for how that impacts our roadmap going forward, I think maybe we could talk a little bit about our self-repaying loans. And so, from our testing perspective, we are currently still testing and working out some bugs on our self-repaying loan feature, and we're really close, right? And what we're thinking through at this point is our intention is to launch on the Ethereum chain because we are fully audited, right? The code is patched and checked and ready to go from a backend perspective. The smart contracts are ready. It's just a matter of connecting up and getting the logic flow on the front end. And, when that happens, the integration phase of a new product stand up, you're always going to hit bugs, right? And that's where we are now. But in this time where we are still testing, still ironing out the kinks, it's given us a little bit of time to kind of reassess our strategy and look at where the market's moving, and maybe consider a slightly different path forward, right? So, as far as Borrow is concerned, one of the things we're considering is to delay the launch of Borrow by just a bit, to give us some time to perhaps port it over and get it ready for example, the Avalanche chain, right? As we're thinking through our our push to retail adoption, our push to get toward to mainstream audiences, it really dawned upon us that, hey, we just made this step into the Avalanche world, right? And we're about to launch this potential high revenue generating product for us in the Ethereum ecosystem. And that just seemed a little bit at odds because, to be frank, right, the smart contract, the interaction costs, right? The compute overhead required for more complex products, it is still significant, right? And we do realize that that could be yet again a barrier to entry to use the self-repaying loan product. So, hey, look, do we go on Ethereum and invest the tokens required to provide enough incentive to get enough liquidity into the pool that powers the self-repaying loan product, and then do it all over again on Avalanche? Or do we wait a tick? Do we try to get this prepared for the Avalanche network and really, put our tokens to make our token spend, our emissions, as efficient as possible by going into an environment that may return more in terms of TVL, right? So, in thinking through that is kind of maybe a little bit of alpha of where we're headed in the future, right? It is all eyes on accessibility, on reducing the barriers to entry, frictionless experiences, not just in the UX, the UI rather, but also in just really the cost of coming into a new product on Ethereum, right? So we are looking at all those, and it could mean that we hold on the self-repaying loan feature until we get it ready for Avalanche. But all that is, I think, the the way we're looking at it is preparing us to make the most, right, of this next milestone. And 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 so, yeah. So what do you think? What do you think about that, Pappy? What if we were to go on Avalanche with the self-repaying loan feature? Or maybe it's a different chain that has low transaction
Mhm.
fees.
Well, one I'll say I'm a big fan of Avalanche, and I'm glad that we made that our first pivot into the cross multi-chain world. You see the news, I think in the past 24 hours, the Terra Foundation, which if you guys aren't familiar, Terra is basically the dominant theme right now within the DeFi space. The Terra chain has been accumulating Bitcoin as part of a strategy to build up a reserve for their stable coin. So obviously, it's the first time that's happened. It's a very spicy narrative. A lot of people are very intrigued by it and waiting to see how it plays out. Uh, what they recently announced in the past 24 hours was that they just invested $100 million into a competing chain, and they chose Avalanche. Now, Avalanche is currently number four in terms of market cap for the different smart contract layer ones. Number one's Ethereum, obviously. Number two is Terra right now. Big hype around Terra. Number three is BSC, so Binance. And I find it funny that quite often the space kind of disregards Binance. And I'll admit to it. Some people are fans, and I can respect that they do have low transaction fees. There are EVM. It does work. It's just my experience over the past year during the bull market. It also is home to most of the scams, and so I just avoided it like crazy. And I just think it's funny that Terra skipped over that and looked at Avalanche. And there's some things that Avalanche is doing from a scalability perspective that's very unique. But also, just that the number two and the number four chains apparently are building some sort of relationship. So I think it's, all that to say, I do think that that we should continue. My thoughts, yeah, Mister. We should continue to build out our presence where it makes the most sense. I mean, I would never abandon. At least is me, right? I actually don't know any of the what's going on in the background. I'm sure that there's you guys are the big brains. I'm just the guy that hangs out in the community space and chats with people. But I always have a soft spot for Ethereum. It is the OG, but I can't deny that there's a lot of great things going on in some of these other chains, and in particular, I'm really excited about Avalanche. Just I'm so happy to be in that space, and some of the new folks I've been meeting and chatting with on different projects, all very cool, very friendly, and yeah. So the idea of moving the some of our new features, maybe debuting them on Avalanche, that could be pretty spicy in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And with, the giga brains over at, Terra, certainly the Luna Foundation Guard as well. I think it's great validation that they've invested into Avalanche, right? And so that I think just kind of bolsters the argument for at least taking a beat right now and doing our due diligence and considering going on a chain that is trending right now, but also is just functionally, arguably just a better experience when it comes to DeFi. So yeah, good to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you, Pat. And yeah, so that does introduce the possibility that we do delay the self-repaying loan product, right? But that said, we'd love to hear from the community, and that's kind of what the point of this call is, right? It is to make sure that the community is fully aware of everything that's happening, but also it's a chance for the community to chime in with their feedback, with their brains, their thoughts on how this should all work. So I think from a maybe we get some questions at the end of this, maybe we don't, but really we'd love to see you all in our Telegram, in our Discord, even if it's just the forum. It's a little bit lower pressure scenario in the forum, right? You get some time to really form your thoughts without the pressure of people watching you type. But wherever it happens, we'd love to see that feedback. We'd love to understand kind of what the community thinks about going on Avalanche with our next milestone, which is that self-repaying loan product. So, yep, I guess we'd love to hear from you. If you got those questions, we'll open it up to questions in a bit. But yeah, that's kind of where we stand right now. And so,
And
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kept trying to unmute. I love this Twitter space. Always a new bug every time. It wouldn't let me. Yeah,
Love
please hop
bug
onto
fixes.
Dis. Please hop onto Discourse, onto the official forums. I mean, you could also hop onto Discord or Telegram too. But I think the forums are a little bit more conducive because they're accessible to everyone. We do have a community that's split across many different social media apparatus. Some aren't even on social media. Uh, and they'll just message us via the website or email or whatever. So the forums are really a great place to talk through some of this. I posted some stuff up this week, and don't leave Poppy hanging. Feel free to drop me some comments. Let me know what's on your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and just to kind of touch off on a few other, pieces of housekeeping for the project, just so everybody is aware. We are also investigating going with a premium RPC for Avalanche to increase the data refresh times, or to reduce the data refresh times, to increase the frequency of the data refreshes, because we have noticed that the RPC at times can lag in refreshing data behind the time it takes to get to finality on any transaction on their chain. And so while at the smart contract level things are just zooming along, sometimes it's held up by, you know, the actual output that you can see with your eyes on our app. It sometimes that's delayed. So we are investigating a new RPC there as well as on Ethereum. We might as well investigate both sides while we're at it. And so that's also a part of the scoping that needs to happen, to prep for anything, you know, um, any other product that we launch on Avalanche. And certainly it does pave the way for us to just be able to continue to iterate, right? And continue to expand into that ecosystem, if not other ecosystems. So that's something that we're working on. We just kicked off that scoping process, so give us a little bit of time on that end. And one other fun little update, fun for me, fun for me, I suppose. But one other piece of little housekeeping is our next step in the voting escrow model, right? Is to potentially bring a bribery market online. And I thought we could spend a little bit of time just kind of talking about that, what the benefits are. But maybe we should start at, like, what are we even talking about with bribes? What is a bribery market, Pat?
Yeah. So in basic terms, it's exactly as it sounds. So if let's say that Mister has 1,000 yAxis tokens just sitting there, he's not using them, and I'm sitting over here. Maybe I don't have a whole bunch of tokens, but I would sure love someone to help me boost, the vault or the strategy that I'm in. Maybe say I'm invested in the ETH vaults on Ethereum. So I hit up Mister and I say, hey, I will trade you something. I'll give you these 5 beers if you go vote for my vault with those extra tokens you got. Now it's a little more nuanced. There are actual platforms out there that facilitate this. It started with Curve. Curve, and actually maybe it preceded that, right? But that's the first time I was aware of it. Curve implemented this bribery option, and what it's great for is basically as a sink for excess tokens, but also just as a second means of revenue for you, right? You can get paid to assign tokens to something that maybe you don't want to sell the tokens, but maybe they have value to you. Maybe you want to continue to hold them long term. Um, Now you can earn a little bit more, additional income by locking them up and using them, to benefit someone else. So it's kind of a win-win for both of us.
Right, exactly. And, just to kind of clarify that a bit more, I think exactly everything Mr. Pappy just said. And just a reminder, the way it all works is, when you lock up your yAxis, you get your VE axis, right? And your VE axis is what gives you the APR boost on our vaults. Um, but perhaps, you're already fully boosted, and perhaps you have more yAxis than you need, or perhaps you're comfortable with the base APR, which is quite high already, right? It is market competitive just even without the boost. Maybe you're fine without the voting. Well, hey, we believe that there is really a strong utility case to be made for opening up a secondary market that allows yAxis holders to realize revenue, as you said, realize, a little bit of extra, incentive, right, in the form of, well, yeah, crypto that is counted in dollars, right? Um, to be for them to make the use case for it just a little bit that little bit stronger, right? So yeah, we're really interested in this bribery market, but really we're looking for the community to give us a little bit of input on what they think, right? Is this something that you want? Is this something that you would use? We think so. We think, it comes down to really the math of it all is a is really a determination between, hey, is the utility I get from the votes on my locked axis, as well as the revenue share that comes every 2 weeks, that is Merkle dropped onto the yAxis holders, is that worth more to me? Or is whatever I could get on a bribe market auction system, is that worth more to me, right? And, kind of the game theory starts to kick in as far as, you know, how much is not just how much is that vote worth, but what is that opportunity cost of the lock time you're going to need to lock up for in order to access that boost and get those votes, right? Um, so yeah, it is a little bit of a complicated model, but when Pappy explained it just like that, with trading beers for your votes, that's essentially what it comes down to, right? It's giving you a different way of giving users a different way to be compensated for supporting the project and locking up their tokens, rather than getting Yaxis tokens. Hey, maybe they want some beer, right? Whatever their preferred form of compensation and incentive is, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that everybody is incentivized for participating in our ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think it's if anyone out there does want to trade me, give me some beers. I will gladly lock my Axis up for you. Putting it out
What,
there.
what was that? Pub Finance, was it? That did
Oh yeah, there's a few beer DAOs or wine DAOs or whatever brewery DAOs out there. Some interesting stuff.
oh man, so genius.
Yeah, yeah. Just don't be coming at me with like Bud Light, Coors Light. I mean, real beer. So so what else do we have on the agenda, sir?
Yeah, well, today is going to be a little bit of a light day. What I was thinking, as we're kind of in a little bit of strategic mode on our side, we wanted to make sure that everybody got the skinny on what's going on behind the scenes. And, maybe now is a good time to open it up for any questions we might have, either live or in the Discord or in the Telegram.
Yeah, yeah. I was just talking in the Telegram, recounting. Why I look to see if there's any questions. Recounting my misadventures in DeFi over the past year, and remembering how I've told this story before, but one of the things I really like about yAxis is the security first approach that we've taken, the auditing, the heavy auditing we've done. It's because I lost the vast majority of my investments last year to another project that was the indexed project when they got hacked. And just ever since then, I never quite recovered from that. That was pretty brutal. But that's why it's one of the things I love about yAxis, man. Uh, it kind of goes on like unspoken. A lot of people kind of put security in the back of their mind, but then you see stuff like Axes. What was that? $600 million hack a week ago.
Yeah, that I mean that kind of stuff is traumatic. It's a brutal space, right? And Pappy, you seem fine to me, but I guess you've never been the same since indexed. So sorry to
You-
hear about
well,
that.
no, no, no. It's a good story. I just share it. I share it once in a while just to really put into. It's like a point of reference for like why it is important, because until you wait when you wake up that day and you see 100% of your investment gone, $0, no way to recover, that hits you a certain kind of way. These audits are really important. I know that's not the topic for this one. I was just chatting with Sender in Telegram about it though, because he was talking about some of his own misadventures in DeFi. It's always, it's always an adventure in this space. Um, yeah. So, do we have any questions? I'm just scanning quick.
Yeah, actually,
I
Pat,
had a
we have Be
question.
Easy. Yeah, thanks for stepping up to the stage, sir.
I appreciate it. So I'm on the page, and I see y'all have the for the photo extra the lock is up to a year.
Hmm.
Um, and y'all have the Joe Avax pool on there, and I know they have a voter extra section on theirs. Are y'all planning on accumulating Joe and doing the VJO and putting a pool over there so y'all could push liquidity over there and then bring in the fees that you get from over there and distribute them back to the people that vote on it over here? Or
Yeah,
how is
Be
that
that?
Easy. Where have you been this whole time? That's a fantastic question. Yes, sir. Yeah, Pat, did you want to feel better?
I just want to start off by saying, I know there's a growing narrative on Joe right now with we'll call it like a pseudo like a new curve war in a way, where with the new version of Joe, there are a lot of protocols are trying to compete for that, because I believe the way, isn't it that uh, if you have a certain percent of Joe, you can get bonus emissions on other things, other investments through Trader Joe. I don't know all the details.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think it's all based off trying to get liquidity, so it's like people you they, the more votes you get, the more APRs. Basically, you could boost liquidity for your pool, and then you get incentives, so people kind of like bribe or whatever. But that's how they was doing it over there on I don't know if you know about Phantom with Solidity, or if you know how Curve does it as far as like the bribes and the incentives. So it's like if yAxis, say you had a yAxis AVAX pool on which you already do, is just probably not voter incentivized. But if you had a yAxis AVAX pool on Joe, but then you started locking up the VJO, then you could incentivize people for voting for that. And I think they do the vote either once a week or once every other week. And then you could there were like basically you'll be bribing people with Yaxis or whatever. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely. Yes,
But it'll
yes.
get more people to start it kind of like put buy pressure on the it'll put buy pressure on Yaxis because you'll have to people would actually be buying the LPs to be incentivized. So that's what the whole thing is it pushes liquidity towards certain LPs. It's
Certain
kind of like what
pools.
the four pool is doing right now with Terra. Terra right now with the UST, and they're doing the four pool. It's going to drive a lot of people to that pool because they want to get incentivized.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been tracking all this really closely, and this is all part of really one giant discussion that's ongoing right now, the strategy discussion on, how we move forward with Avalanche. And so I guess the short answer is, well, first of all, sir, if you want to come join our Discord and you just sprinkle some of your Giga Brain thoughts in there, we'd love to have you in the community. But I guess the short answer to your question is yes, we are considering it. We are considering both going into the forthcoming four pool, creating a vault and a strategy for that, as well as stacking Joe, right, and stacking some governance stake in Trader Joe, and we've been actually anticipating that for a minute, and that is the reason why we made sure that we do have dynamic control of our buybacks on Avalanche, and we do now have full dynamic control of buybacks on Ethereum as well. But what that means basically, be easy, and for everybody else is, up until fairly recently, our buybacks were an automated process that was foundational to our harvest. right? And excuse me, what we've done in the past is take the rewards that are accrued on any vault position, and on behalf of users, we would take those, swap those out into the principal asset, right, and compound it on behalf of the user. And the protocol would take a, little piece of that as protocol revenue fee. And we used to just automatically swap that into yAxis, and that was a an automated buyback mechanism that we had put in place quite some time ago. But it became clear with kind of the shift in the DeFi trends, especially with curve wars having had kicked off and proven the bribery model and the VE model certainly. We did realize that we not only had to diversify our revenue, but it did make sense to start taking governance positions, stakeholder positions in protocols that we're partnered up with. And so we've made those changes, and while right now we're not prepared to start stacking Joe, that is something that we're actively looking at, right? Everything is all about revenue right now, but as soon as we're in a place where we can get a little bit of wiggle room, the intention is to definitely stack, whether it's CVX or whether it's Joe, right? Maybe it's CRB itself. Those are all on the table. It just becomes a question, and again, it's part of a larger strategic discussion. It becomes a discussion of, where do we spend if there's X amount of a slice of the pie, right, X percentage available to invest in building up a governance position. Do we spread that across our different partners? Do we focus on one? Maybe it's Avalanche. So without giving away too much of that, and hopefully not setting the wrong expectations out there, definitely can tell you that yes, it is in consideration, and we are actively looking at ways to start doing that, to start building up a governance position. Does that answer your question there, Be Easy?
Yeah, that was perfect. And I do want to applaud y'all for moving over to Avalanche, because I remember when y'all first started. I think I got in around $75. Remember when y'all first started on Ethereum, but then
Yes, sir.
when the gas fees started ballooning, that's when I thought, like, like the regular common folk, not the whales, but the common folk
The
people,
common folk, right?
kind of got this. I don't know. Probably on your end, you can see the analytics, but the movement starts to slow down, because it's like, how am I going to claim when I claim, it's about to eat up everything I just earned. So at one point I'll go a month or two without claiming, because I'm like, man, these gas fees are crazy. So y'all moving over here, yeah, the price dropped, but I think the momentum will pick back up once people realize what y'all are doing.
Well, thank you, sir. That's great to hear that you've been supporting us for that long. And really, you are the audience that we're looking to optimize for, right? It's your exact experience that you're talking about right now. So it's blowing my mind that we're talking to the person that we're trying to get into the protocol on the Avalanche side. Absolutely, and that is our goal. So yes, thank you for the kind words, and thanks for the insight. Really appreciate it. Would love to have you, bring that in, to our community whenever you got some time. Would love to see you pop into our Discord, sir, or our Telegram.
Oh, if y'all got a Telegram, that'll be perfect. Nothing against Discord, but it's just too much channels and stuff on there. Like, Telegram is perfect. You know what I mean?
I hear you. It's so funny, man. It's so polarizing. Telegram versus Discord. It's these die-hard camps like Discord only or Telegram only, and we're sitting here kind of straddling both worlds and trying to make sure we're relevant and competent
Yeah.
on both platforms. So yeah, all that to say, sorry, I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, please do join our Telegram. We can follow up with the DM, and we'll send you a link to the
And
Telegram.
not to take the stage, but and if you don't have a time frame, it's cool. But hypothetically, time frame wise, even if it's not that big of a pool, how do you see as far as like starting one of those to getting on those wars, the Joe wars?
Yeah, the from a time frame perspective, it really first take for us to even start building up that governance position. I would say that would be on the at best a couple months time frame. But in terms of spinning up new pools, spinning up new vaults rather, spinning up new strategies, as soon as we see some good solid adoption and some good solid TVL, we can spin up that vault pretty quickly. So that's on the week scale, right? So less than a month, to much less than a month, I would say, to be able to deploy that. And because our vault architecture is kind of a templated architecture, we have the template audited, right? And it's just really a matter of kind of adjusting or changing the assets that get plugged in. So we can do it pretty quickly, but we could really do it super quickly. But we're all about making sure that we test, and I'm sure if you've been following us for this long, we are all about making sure that
Yeah.
we reduce risk before we make a move. So yeah, but we can do it super quick, man.
All right, man. Good luck, man. If you, I think you could pin. Can you pin one of your tweets or your Telegram, or is your Telegram right on your page?
You know what? Let's add it to our page right under the Discord link. Thank you. That's a good reminder. Should have done that some time ago,
All right.
probably. But yeah, we'll get
I,
that on. Just refresh our profile page in a couple minutes. I'll get that up
I
there right now.
appreciate that, man. I'll just sit back and listen, see what other questions that might be answered.
Right on. No, appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Peace.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great question. Yeah, shout out to Be Easy. This will be recorded, so yeah, your name is going to be on our you heard, sir, for mentioned multiple times here. So thank you for that question. Are we seeing anything
Yeah.
else out there, Pat?
Yeah. I'm just taking a quick scan. I don't. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see anything. There is some discussion both on Discord and Telegram. I'm it's like you guys, like you were saying, it's really almost like two different communities between each. But I'm talking about the same thing on each, which is just kind of again going to that future roadmap and some of the decisions we want to make this a more sustainable protocol. The evolution from being an OG DeFi 1.0 type model to forward leaning agile dynamic protocol that adapts to the current market trends. That's the dream. That's where we're trying to get, right.
Yes, sir.
So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking to quite a few of you guys right now on both sides, and then it's also up on the forums. So again, just a reminder, love to have you guys in the forums. It's just easier than bouncing between the same topics on both chats. But yeah, I don't see any other questions. So unless someone here has anything that they like to come up on the stage and talk to us about.